One.
Hey guys, welcome to Everyday with Erika. So glad you're tuning in. I'm here live with Razel Jones, one of my favorite people. Drove all the way up here from Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee yesterday for his spring break, and guess what? We have flurries outside. So we're here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, hoping for some spring, but it's lacking. We're a little behind. If you can see and hear and everything is good, will you just drop a 1 in the comments box for me so that we know we're set up well? We're having a couple technical difficulties here, which is not uncommon in my world. But appreciate you being here. We're going to dive in. We got the man behind the camera, my husband, Austin, and I appreciate him. He's going to help me share that. So we're going to get into the fun stuff. We are here today discussing Strengths Finders. You've seen me promote this a couple times throughout this week, as it's such an amazing tool that I have personally grown to love, utilize in my personal life, my relationships, my professional life, you name it. And honestly, it's all been because of this guy. I was introduced to Strengths Finders through my friend Tracy, who is actually Rajel's sister-in-law. And he's been working with me in multiple capacities for the last few years, and it has literally been life-changing. So we're going to dive in. I'm going to stop talking about myself so much. I'll tell you a little bit about how it's impacted me over these last few years, but really we're here to hear from Razel. So Razel, do you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself,
Sure.
why you're so passionate about this tool, and kind of what you do with it?
Sure, definitely. Well, hello, everybody in the Facebook world. Good to see you today. So I'm just happy to be here and happy to talk about one of my favorite tools. Strengths is a tool I came to be familiar with about a decade ago, and I was able to get certified and do some training through the Gallup organization. And it's been a great outlet for me to be able to help a lot of people to actualize their potential. And not just people, but teams. We work with couples. We've worked with all sorts of different people to be able to help them to see, what am I naturally gifted to do? And what can I do to take what I'm naturally gifted to do and turn it into a strength that I can turn on at will? Mm-hmm. So we spend a lot of time trying to help develop people just to be a better version of themselves. And so that's the big thing. You probably saw I put a quote on a few days ago that I ran across by Ming Su, who said, "Those who follow the part of themselves that is great will become great. Those who follow the part that is small will become small." And so this work is, for me, all about helping people to find the part of them that's great, to kind of embrace it, to go with it, to run with it, and to become the best version of themselves they can possibly become.
I love that he just shared that quote, because I literally have it in my notes to reference back to him.
Oh,
so
nice.
That is such an amazing quote, and I can be a testament to that. Just being able to put off, what I have perceived as weaknesses and, jealousies and envy of trying to be like other people, and really just appreciate who I've been created to be. And I'll just share a quick story. Razel worked with my previous team. I spent about 3.5 years at one of the largest local missions here in Michigan, and grew to have a staff of about 15 individuals. And when Razel was introduced to me, I was like, I just need some help figuring out how I function as a leader and how to help my team function and their strengths, right? And so that's really how I got involved with him. He worked with me one-on-one and then with our team. And one of the best things that I got to witness over the years is I have multiple staff members come up to me telling me I no longer perceive certain areas as weaknesses. I just kind of accept myself for who I am. I appreciate and embrace who I am. And I'm not insecure about where I'm not strong in anymore. I'd rather function where I am strong. And just to watch people develop that and be able to shed off insecurities and things that had them bound before, for me personally, was so worth the investment. It was worth the investment in being able to invest in this tool, in Rajel's time and everything. And so just to give you a quick agenda, I'm just going to ask them a couple questions, and you're more than welcome to drop a couple questions in the comments. I got my husband in the background, and if we don't get them to all of them today, we'll definitely comment as we're going. So we definitely want to touch on what is so important about StrengthsFinders in the professional world, in team building and leadership, and in relationships, whether that be marriage, friendships, you name it. And then lastly, why is it so important for self, right? So I won't make them answer all that right there, but just so you know, we're going to dive into those different quadrants. And so I'd really like to start off. I know we have a lot of people trying to seek, how they can become better in the professional world and grow in that aspect. So Razel, do you mind just kind of speaking to how you've been able to help people professionally?
Sure. So yeah, I mentioned about 10 years ago, I got certified in it. My background is human resources, and really it was a human resources tool that I was using because what it does, when people are able to kind of grow into knowing what they're naturally talented to do, then they can begin to think about how can I apply those natural talents on a daily basis. I always tell people, so when you take the assessment, you get your top 5 leadership gifting areas is kind of what the assessment provides for you. And when you get that, if you can begin to focus more on doing tasks that bring those to life, it makes you more engaged. And so the organization that I was working for at the time recognized that we need engaged people. It's better for individuals and it's better for the organizations if people are doing things that they feel gifted and strong at doing. They're going to produce better results. They're going to be happier to be at work. They're going to find ways to achieve the goals that you have in place because they're using the gifts and the talents that are naturally theirs. And so a lot of times now the reality is that there are times in our professional lives that we have to do some things that we are not naturally gifted to do. That's a reality. That's what happens. But as much as possible, if we can help people learn how to play to their strengths, then they get better outcomes and they can better manage those things that aren't as natural because they know they only have to do that for a minute and then they can get right back to the things that they love the most. So we've been able to really help empower managers, as you mentioned, supervisors, to recognize and to be aware of the giftings and the talent abilities of the people on their teams. And at the same time, to help individuals to feel confident that, okay, I do have something to offer. I like to help people to realize that these strengths are things that you can guarantee someone that you can bring to the table. You can count on me. If I'm an ideation person, for instance, you can count on me to bring an idea. Now, I'm not saying that every one of my ideas is going to be a good idea, but I'm going to have something. I'm going to give you something. So whatever, there's 34 themes, and really what Gallup did, just a little bit of background, is that they did research to find out what are the 34 traits that are most indicative of leaders. And so this assessment ranks which of those 5 are your top 5 of the 34 that kind of naturally flow to you. And so professionally, when people are engaged and when people are confident, then the productivity increases, the engagement increases, and the results and the bottom line increase.
That's great. I love that. He really taught me and my team, just functioning out of those strengths really feels like I'm a right-handed woman, okay? So when I'm functioning out of my strengths, I am using my right hand. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense how that came out, but it's functioning as if I'm writing with my right hand. There's going to be things that I'm going to have to do when I'm writing with my left hand. But what really helped me, and I tried to empower the people on my team to do, was focus on those areas where you are writing with your right hand, if that makes sense. Right. I could so go down a rabbit trail, and that's what happens with me and Razel. I should give you a heads up. God knows where we're gonna go here, but so professionally, it's been absolutely amazing. There are so many professional individuals who are always reaching out for different assessments and tools that they can use to grow, and I am again a testament to why StrengthsFinders has been so great. One of my strengths personally is individualization, and that's why I think it's so great because I can focus on an individual and call out, this is where you're strong, right? And I've really learned to grasp that and feel that and focus on that. So I guess that kind of leads us into how, Razel, do you work with teams?
Yeah.
So when you go in and you have your managers and supervisors on one level, but then you go in and you work with the teams, how do you teach them to synergize and...
Yeah, so I often like to say, no matter who you're working with, you're gonna have some things in common and you're gonna have some things that are different. In those areas where you have similarities, let's say that both of you who are working together are really good at coming up with ideas, with strategy. I keep using that as my example. I'm gonna use a different one. Let's say that both of you are really good at executing. You're really good at finishing. You're having a routine. Then when you both come together, then you'll have synergy in that area and you'll produce even more.
Yeah.
But then there are times where those of you who are really good at finishing get placed on a team with people who aren't. That's where the trouble comes.
Right.
That's where the conflict starts. That's where people start not liking each other and wanting to quit their jobs. When that happens, what I try to do is I try to help people to figure out how can we build a complementary partnership. So you have one person who's really good at finishing, but maybe there's another person who's really good at creating a vision. So we're different in those areas. So if I can team those people up, then we become more well-rounded. Because individually we're not well-rounded, but when I put a bunch of different people together in a room, then you're going to bring something different to the table than I'm going to bring to the table. So Erika's going to be really good at the executing and at finishing some things. I'm going to be really good at maybe selling an idea. When we come together, then we can do both of those things.
Right.
So we become better together. And so that's the goal, that we build synergies in those areas where we have commonalities, and that we build complementary partnerships in those areas where we're different.
That's great. If you can agree with that, would you drop a 1 in the comment section? Engage with us. We're excited you're here. I'll tell you this is kind of funny, but last time Razel was here, I literally told him, I will pay you just to sit in your presence and have you talk. So we sat here for an hour before this and just have notes upon notes. There's just wisdom that flows out of his mouth. And so we appreciate that. Hence, my husband's here as well. And leading into the next topic, he told me he was coming up again. I was like, oh my gosh, just sit down with us before we do everything else we have to do today. Let's just pull as much wisdom from you as we can in how the strengths can continue to build my marriage. And, Austin has bought into this as well, and really we've started to focus on our individual strengths and try to see how we can synergize again in functioning with each other. And where we really used to bump heads a lot, where I did not understand why he was the way he was, why he did not understand why I was the way I am, we've really kind of started to see, well, this person's just functioning how they have been created to be, and now God's brought us together. I'm a believer, so I'm referencing God, but God has brought us together and we're functioning in that aspect to not just have 5 strengths, but in a union now we have 10. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
And so you say you work with couples. What's been, I guess, one of the best highlights in working with couples? And it may not be marriage, maybe it's friendship or something else, you name it, but just speak to that a little bit if you could.
Well, in case my wife is watching, I'll be careful. I'll self-edit right now. But many times as we enter into relationships, we find out that we are very different, that we see the world in a completely different way. And so, you mentioned marriage. What I believe marriage is the weaving of 2 worlds.
Yeah.
And
you guys should probably write that down. That's just good.
It's the weaving of 2 worlds. And so, even I remember back to my premarital life coaching that I was receiving from Bishop Smith. One thing he told us, he said, marriage is like these 2 waves that are coming together from opposite directions, and they have to connect. So they first crash, and then they begin to flow, and they find a way to flow together.
That's so good.
Man, and that was profound, and I saw that come into play, definitely, because my wife She sees things very different than me. She is very particular. She's very regimented. She has a process, and she has a way that works for getting things done, and she does not want me or anyone else to change it because it works. I'm like, well, let's come up with another way. Let's change it. There's got to be another way to do it. And I'm not as organized as she is. I'm not as particular as she is. So in marriage, we had to learn how to weave that together to make it a complementary partnership, to make it mutually beneficial instead of a point of contention. Because those same things that I talked about in the team building that can become complementary partnerships can also just as easily become friction and tension. And so you have to find a way, how can we work this in a way that makes us better? And so that's what we spend a lot of time with couples looking at, okay, who are you? And so even the way that you publicize this talk, what's right with you? Because it's really naturally easy for us to think about what's wrong with you. And even if we don't do it to ourselves, we definitely do it to people we're in relationship with. We're like, I know exactly what's wrong with you. This. And so it's really easy for us to see problems when we look at other people. This tool challenges us, instead of looking at what's wrong with you, to look at what's right with you. And how can we kind of maximize that? How can I sow into my partner? How can I sow into my friend? How can I sow into whoever it is to help make them better and to allow them at the same time, simultaneously, to help make me better at the same time? And so we spend time looking at what are your top 5 themes? What are your styles? Where are your synergies? What are your you see me, I always come right back to that same kind of thing. What are the potential complementary partnerships, and how can you work together to be better versions of yourselves? And how can you make that wave stop crashing and start flowing?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. If you agree with anything, drop the number 2. If you saw me, I was putting up the bunny ears there. But seriously, this is some good stuff, and that's why I believe in this so much. Is it's not just a tool, but literally we have a consultant who has really become a friend of ours that has seeded this stuff into our lives where we're able to take it even further, so it's just kind of dropping down, flowing out of us. It's not coming out very eloquently, but you know what I mean, I hope. I guess, the last question, as individuals, like you said, you just referenced that quote, it's so easy for us to focus on what's wrong with ourselves, and we can be our own worst enemy in that capacity. And I think one of the biggest blessings about this tool has been how I've learned to see myself and why I am the way that I am. So I definitely want him to speak to how we should use this for personal growth. But I just want to share a quick story. When I did mine with him a couple of years ago, he kind of went through them, and he was like, you have very interesting strengths for a female. And I was like, oh, gosh, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess I don't have time to go into why that makes so much sense, but I'm in seminary here, and last night I'm in a class on women in ministry and the different views on it and all of this stuff. And one of the things that I was able to bring to that discussion was, of course there's the different views. I respect them all, but I can't deny who God has made me to be. I absolutely can't do it. And so when people come against who I've been created to be, or come against my strengths, my God-given gifts, it's like they're coming against me as an individual. And I've been hurt through some of that, but at the same time, I've had to learn to accept it with grace. There are just simply different views. And I am the one at the end of the day that has to answer to God on how I use my strengths and how I use the gifts that He's given me. And so, if I'm a strong woman who functions like a male in leadership, I don't know. He has challenged me, and, my husband has totally hopped on this bandwagon, and I love it. He's told me you have to become comfortable bringing your whole self to the table. And that to me is incredibly intimidating because there's a lot to bring to the table sometimes. And I've told him about some conversations that I've had where I've kind of shied away from saying the things that I felt I should have said, and you know, I've shied away from doing the things that I should have done because of whether it's being female or, you know, afraid to offend someone, or, you know, I just know I'm a lot sometimes. That in and of itself has challenged me when I'm in specific conversations to become smarter on how I'm approaching them. Because one of my favorite quotes, it's so funny, Regina, if you watch this, you're gonna love it, but one of your favorite quotes, I'm not promoting drinking or anything, but don't water yourself down because people can't handle you at 100 proof.
Right.
And so for me, I've kind of tied all of that in to say, you know, I am supposed to be an empowered individual who uses my strengths, my giftings to leave an impact on this world. And it doesn't matter who you are, what your strengths are. Your strengths could be vastly different from mine. But you actually have the responsibility to use the strengths that you've been given to leave an impact on this world, no matter what they are. And one day we all have to answer for them, right? And I think that's why Razel is so passionate about this, because how can we help people grow and empower them to become more secure in who they are, right? And leave off some of those insecurities. Forget about the weaknesses, function where you're strong, right? So that's my story. I just share that to tell you that this has been so empowering, not just the tool itself, but, you know, find someone that can see it into you. Find someone who can teach you how to grow some of these things. And I'm going to tell you in a few minutes how, right? But, Razel, you know, you got me preaching at the camera now. Here we go.
Preach.
I know one of the reasons you're so passionate about it is because you want to empower individuals to see themselves how they've been created to be, right? And to act that out, not just know it, but how does that lead into action? How does that lead into calling, et cetera, et cetera? So I just said a lot. I'm going to let you flow with what you want to flow with, but would you mind just speaking to that?
Sure. So one of my favorite quotes, Benjamin Franklin said, "Hide not your gifts, they for use were made. What's the sundial in the shade?" Hide not your gifts, for use they were made. What's the sundial in the shade? Your gifts don't mean anything if you don't use them. Your talents don't help anybody if you don't apply them. And so I'm thinking back to the conversation that you mentioned where I said your talents, your strengths are interesting for women. It's not that there's a problem with being a woman with those. It's that society will try to say you have to be a certain way. Society will try to say, well, based on gender roles or cultural roles, whatever kind of roles we want to throw in there, that this is what the expectation is. And that's not necessarily who you are. And so each one of you listening, each one of us has had some gifts and talents invested in us. The name of my company is 5 Talents on Purpose, and that is a biblical reference to the fact that the story where the master gave 5 talents to individuals, and one did not use theirs, one buried them. 2 of them used them, and they produced increase. They multiplied it. That is all of our journey, to use what we have, to use what's been invested in us to make a difference, to make our sphere of influence better. Whoever we are, whatever gifts we have, not to hide them, not to bury them, but to use them to provide impact, and to hopefully make our little portion of the world somewhat of a better place. So again, I'll end one more time. Hide not your gifts. They for use were made. What's the sundial in the shade? Use them.
Oh, that's so good. You guys, that's so good. I actually think I want to end on that note. I want to leave you thinking. I want to leave you mulling over this a little bit. And know that if you haven't done the strengths assessment and you haven't dug into this, but we've kind of got you a little bit inspired, and, you know, I want to learn more about myself. How can I become a student of myself? Can you tell them your email address?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where can people contact you?
info@razeljones.com. info@razeljones.com. razeljones.com. info@razeljones.com is a great email address to reach out to me to start a conversation, to find out how we can grow in this area, how we can work together. Also, pretty much any social media, I'm at Razel Jones. The joy of having a unique name, at Razel Jones. You can follow me on any of those and find me there and contact me there as well. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you. I just had to throw in one more thing.
Please, go ahead.
I used to say a lot when I would be speaking to groups that no one has your swag, style, flavor, or flow. You were made uniquely. You were made wonderfully. And no one has your swag, style, flavor, or flow. So flow like you. Do your thing. Do you. You know, people say that in a negative context.
Yeah.
I want to say it in a positive context. Embrace who you are. Embrace what's been invested in you. Use your gifts. Stop hiding what's good about you. Stop only bringing part of you to the table because somebody else is going to be intimidated, or somebody's going to be worried, or somebody's going to think that you shouldn't do what you're doing. Bring the best of you forward. Stop bringing the worst of you forward. Bring the best of you forward.
Yeah, that is so good, you guys. Now I have to tell them a story, and then we're gonna end. But this is so impactful that this hasn't just been for professionals and couples and relations and whatever. But I teach a class in the jail once a week. I volunteer in the jail with individuals that people look down on, right? Why do they keep messing up? Why they're this? Why they're that? And in the class, I'm often referencing this stuff, and they spit stuff back to me that I say that I'm like, I said that? And I have to write it down and be like, go home and remember that. Why are you not living this out? And one woman, she just got out, but she just kept reminding me, she embraced the concept of be a student of yourself. Be a student of yourself. She learned, the depth of becoming self-aware and not just embracing, the negative and all of that, but she really, how can I become a student of myself? Why do I react in situations that I do? Where am I strong and all of this? And she threw that back in my face at one time, and I was just like, ooh, dagger to the heart. I felt that, but the fact that you embrace that so much and you're going to go out and live this is so amazing to me. So we're going to end here, but you guys, I hope you had some kind of value added to your life today, and whether you reach out to Razel or not, know that you're created to be so unique and so special, and that's what we're here today to tell you. Be empowered in who you are, in your gifting, add value to this world, whether it's in a small circle, a big circle, go get them. We love you, we're glad you're here. I would reach out to Razel. Can't tell you. I've told you, but I'm going to tell you again how much value he's added to my life and to the lives of the people around me. So you don't just get a consultant, you get somebody who's going to really speak truth into your life. So I want to keep promoting him, and Razel, I just thank you for being here with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
He's my first on Every Day with Erika, and hopefully not my last, but hopefully he's here again. We've got some stuff in the works. He's going to continue visiting, and we're going to continue to promote some stuff. So we'll definitely keep you in tune and up to date, but hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday. If you got something from this, hit the like button, hit the heart button, throw them up there, and we'll see you soon. Have a great one.